"Bartender, make me a drink that will wake me up and then fuck me up." These are the exact words that a famous anonymous model said to a certain bartender in London back in 1990s, or 80s, or 70s. One of those. Now the bartender in question was Dick Bradsell. And when he heard his request, he spat in her mouth and punched her in the tits. At least that's the less popular version of this story. Or at least that's what he should have done. But no, instead he went on and created Espresso Martini. And I had a privilege to work with a guy that used to work with Dick Bradsell, and he told me all about how he created the cocktail and how he used to make it himself. So I'm going to share this recipe with you. But alongside that, I'm going to share the recipe that is classed as a classic recipe. The recipe that evolved in today's known version of Espresso Martini. So I have two different shakers in front of me. One I'm going to use for the Dick Bradsell version, and one I'm going to use for the classic Espresso Martini version. The one thing they both have in common is the vodka. You can pretty much choose any style of vodka. It can be cheap or expensive, although I don't know why would you use an expensive vodka in a cocktail if you can't taste the quality of the vodka. Espresso Martini is quite overpowering drink with coffee, so you're not going to get too much of a taste of vodka. It's mainly there for the purpose of the booze, of the alcohol content in the cocktail, to booze it up a little bit, to make it a cocktail. So I'm going to choose the vodka I have on hand, which is Japanese Haku vodka. So for both cocktail, I'm going to use a double shot of vodka. Now this is where the recipe differs. I have here some pre-made coffee. Don't worry to use freshly made hot steaming coffee. I know it's going to dilute the drink and it's going to melt the ice a little bit faster, but this cocktail wants that little bit extra dilution. Otherwise it's going to be too much coffee forward. You can use cold brew coffee. You can make a coffee and let it cool down and then use it. You can use some coffee concentrate, but you're an idiot if you do that, let's be honest. So I have some freshly made coffee, still warm. Good old Dick. He used to make Espresso Martini with only single shot of espresso. So one single shot of coffee. For the regular classic version of Espresso Martini, bartenders usually do a double shot of espresso. A double shot of coffee for the regular version of Espresso Martini. Now the next thing in the recipe that they have in common is the sugar. This is my sugar syrup made from caster sugar. That's why the color is so brown, but it's going to work just as good as the regular simple syrup. For the regular Espresso Martini, you would use around 10 milliliters of sugar syrup. But not Dick Bradsell. He wouldn't use 10 milliliters of sugar syrup. He wouldn't use 5, he wouldn't use 15. Because he did not measure it. He just poured it down, free pouring, whatever he feels like. So I imagine it looked something like this. I could measure it, but Dick Bradsell didn't. So I'm gonna stick to his rules. Now the last, but obviously not least, is the coffee liqueur. The go-to coffee liqueur is the Kahlua. Is your coffee flavored sweet liquor. It's quite nice on its own, to be honest. And there's some many different recipes than Espresso Martini that call for Kahlua, and they are fantastic. So for the classic Espresso Martini, we're gonna go ahead with single shot of Kahlua. Now there are other versions of coffee liqueurs. I find the Kahlua to be the best. But Dick Bradsell did not use Kahlua. Dick Bradsell used Tia Maria. Tia Maria is a different type of coffee liqueur, but it is different in taste. It's slightly more coffee forward, it's slightly less sweet, and it's not so popular in Espresso Martini making. But Dick Bradsell used that and used the single shot of Tia Maria. So that's that. The regular Espresso Martini as it is known today, and the very first original Dick Bradsell version. You can see they are quite similar. They have small differences. At the end of the day, the only way to find out how different they are is to taste them. So let's shake things up. Now, before we shake things up, there's one slight difference that you would do before you shake things up, because Dick Bradsell would not use an ice scoop to pick his ice. He would simply pick the ice with his hands. So I'm gonna just drop the ice into the tin with my bare hands, which are relatively clean. I can assure you Dick Bradsell's hands were not clean. I was told he used to get his dick out all the time, but I guess he was just living up to his name. So that's how he did things. I'm going to do things the same way. For the regular espresso martini, I'm going to use my trusty ice tongs. Not that it's going to make any difference, but let's be professional. Now, espresso martini requires a special way of shaking the cocktail. One of the few cocktails that you need to shake the way that you're supposed to. Most of the cocktails, you shake, strain, voila, the cocktail is done. Not with espresso martini. With espresso martini, you want that nice foamy head. You want that Guinness effect. Guinness. And you achieve that only by hard shaking the cocktail. You want to shake it as hard as possible, and you want to really put your soul into it. And you shake this cocktail for a little bit longer, just to make that frothy head, just to make that coffee a little bit more foamy, to foam up and to create a beautiful drink. So I'll shake them one by one, because I find out if I double shake, my left hand is not as strong as the right hand. And for the purpose of this experiment, I want both of them to be shaken more or less the same, so they taste the same, because the shaking can affect the taste. My tin is nice and frozen, and that's how you want to when you shake espresso martini. You want to shake the shit out of it. So let's pour it in. Now I don't have too much of a foam, and the cocktail is a little bit short, and I know why. It's because I used only one shot of espresso, as Dick Bradsell would do. I've been told that Dick Bradsell would always make the cocktail perfectly to the rim. There wouldn't be anything left in the shaker, and you would always get a nice wash line. So I'm not sure if his recipe was slightly different, or his glassware was a little bit different, but I'm just trying to recreate something that he did that I've been told through another person. So it's obviously not going to be perfect, but this is as close as I can get. Now let's move on to the second cocktail. It's a little bit of a workout, not gonna lie. So again, you can see the tin is nice and frozen, just the way you want it. So let's strain this cocktail and see how this one turns out. Much more foam, and it's all the way to the top. And actually, I have a lot of cocktail left over. And this is what a single shot of coffee does to you. Makes a hell of a lot more cocktail for you. So the alcohol content is the same. All we add is one single shot of espresso. And how much difference does it make? I mean, look how much more espresso martini I have. It usually wouldn't happen if I'm behind a proper bar. But hey, I'm at home, I'm not going to complain. You know, more booze for me. When you go to a bar and they give you cocktail like this, and you're going to flip out, why is it so short? I don't have enough espresso martini. They can give you this with almost half of the cocktail on the side. Yeah, the alcohol content is still exactly same in both. Before we taste, let's garnish our cocktail. In few establishments, I've noticed what I call a lazy bartender, and I don't mean this in bad way, but I imagine Dick Bradsell being this lazy bartender when he picks a couple of coffee beans and just throw them in the cocktail randomly. However, I like to put them in a nice triangle. It's not a triangle. It's a coffee pointing one in different directions in three. You see what I mean. So place 3 coffee beans gently and nicely. You can use tongs. It's going to be a bit easier for you. It's going to take you maybe 2 seconds more. The cocktail is going to look so much more nicer. So here we have a Dick Bradsell, a little bit messy version. Don't see any foam on top whatsoever. The martini glass doesn't help it too much, as the surface on top is much wider than on the bottom. So the foam goes all around the top there. So you won't get such a great thickness, but I don't see much of a foam anyway. And it's not the problem of shaking, it's the absence of espresso. This cocktail looks much nicer. It's your regular espresso martini. However, Dick Bradsell was a genius, and maybe this one will taste much better. However, if you get served an espresso martini, this is what it should look like. So let's give it the taste. The first one, the regular espresso martini. It's very refreshing. Espresso martini is an ideal drink when you go out in the evening, you've been working all day and you're tired as fuck, and you want something to wake you up and then fuck you up. To be honest, this drink describes that feeling pretty well. I mean, it's gonna wake you up. It has espresso in it, it's a caffeinated drink. You can ask for decaffeinated espresso martini, but you would probably expect a kick in the bollocks. If you want an espresso martini, it has espresso in the fucking name. Obviously it's going to contain caffeine. And being high on booze, with full of energy, is the best feeling ever. Anyway, the taste is very nice. It's, even if you don't like coffee, this is probably one way how you can get introduced into the coffee world, because it's the coffee but made nice. Yeah, the balance is there. It's not overly too sweet. It's not overly too bitter. You know, it's not very coffee-esque. The balance is just right. I do prefer a different version. For me, equal parts Kahlua, vodka, coffee. That's all it takes. For me, that version is the best. No sugar needed. However, in most bars, you will get this version, which is not bad either. But I'm excited for the Dick Bradsell version. So let's give it a go. Ooh. That is very interesting. It's like a punch in the face. This is the drink that will wake you up and fuck you up. I can vouch for that. You feel the vodka, you feel the coffee. Even though there's less coffee, you feel it. In the classic espresso martini, you froth up the coffee, you dilute the ice a little bit more because there's more coffee, more hot coffee that you shake it with. This is actually really good. It's a little bit strong. If you want to drink a cocktail and feel the alcohol in it, this is a perfect version of espresso martini for you. I would say I would maybe prefer Kahlua to Tia Maria, but I can't fault it. I would definitely drink another one. These are the two versions of espresso martini. I'm not gonna stop it there. I'm gonna try a little experiment of my own. A little recipe I've never tried before. I've just been playing with the idea for a little while. And I'm gonna try and have a go at the Irish coffee. So when I try to create a cocktail or make a twist on a classic version, I try to toy around with the ingredients a little bit. Not only with the ingredients, with the glassware as well. I'm gonna try to make an Irish coffee. Oh no, not Irish coffee. So I'm going to try and make an Irish espresso martini. Now, what that means can already give you a little clue. Yes, obviously I'm going to use Irish whiskey. But not only that, let's keep it the Irish way and maybe use something else. So let's get a glass. I'm not going to use a traditional martini or a coupe style glass. I'm going to use a mini Guinness glass. This is the perfect size for the cocktail I'll try to make. It's not going to be full of espresso martini. It's probably double the size of the regular cocktail. It's like your little highball. And in highball, you sometimes top up the cocktail with a fizzy stuff, like soda, your lemonade, or something else. So for this cocktail, I'm going to be using Guinness. Yeah, obviously Guinness, there was quite a few clues. I don't know if you picked up. But this is not your regular Guinness, this is the coffee brew Guinness, and it's one of my favorite beers, probably in the world. It's just so beautiful. If anybody knows how to make coffee flavored Guinness, it's probably the Guinness people themselves, and they smash it. To be honest, every product they do, they just do it well. I mean, fucking Irish people, they're amazing. So just to know what we're working with, let's give it a little taste. So I get a very slight hint of coffee. It's quite bitter. The cocktail that we're trying to mix this with needs to be a little bit sweet. So as I said, I like to switch it up a little bit, change a few ingredients. So for instance, I'm not going to use the regular coffee. I have here a coffee that I just brewed. That is a vanilla flavored coffee, which I think will go incredibly well with this cocktail. It would work really well in a classic espresso martini, but if I want to switch it up, I need to change the coffee. I'm gonna have a vanilla flavor in it. As we've seen in the experiment before, I do really need a double shot of coffee to make that nice frothy head. So let's go and do a double shot of vanilla flavored coffee. Now the second thing, we used vodka before, and as I said, this is going to be Irish coffee. Irish whiskey it is. I'm gonna use the Tullamore Dew, finish in the rum cask. Smells so good. Yeah. True. If anything, it's a little bit too strong, too punchy, so I'm gonna use a single shot of Irish Tullamore Dew and ease it down a little bit with a bit of bourbon, a bit of a sweet whiskey to give that little bit of balance, to take it to another level, to take it to the level when you just sip it and drink it and think, yes please, I want another one. So single shot of Maker's Mark as well. Now, as I already said, I prefer Kahlua to Tia Maria. Single shot, as always. And last but not least, well actually least, because it's just the sugar, we're going to switch up the sugar a little bit. So instead of regular simple syrup, we're going to change it for a Demerara sugar syrup. So I'm going to be using a Demerara sugar syrup, which is that little bit more sweet, and I think it will work absolutely wonders in this cocktail. As I said, we need a little bit sweeter cocktail than usual because the Guinness itself is quite bitter. So we're going to switch it up to 15 milliliters of Demerara sugar. It could be too sweet, but I'm feeling it. I feel it's going to be a good cocktail. So let's shake this up, and once we shake this up, we top it up with the coffee Guinness and see how it turns out. And again, very hard shake. Wow, that smells incredible. I'm not going to lie, it smells beautiful because of the whiskies. And the vanilla coffee. Oh, this is going to be great. This is going to be great. So double strain in a Guinness glass. Now look at that Guinness effect. It's already coming up. The foam on top is incredible. So before I put my Guinness in, I'm going to try it on its own, just to see how it tastes, just to see how the Espresso Martini with vanilla coffee and Irish whiskey tastes like, and a bit of bourbon and the Demerara sugar. Let's give it a go. Wow. Wow. That is like the perfect middle way between the Dick Bradsell version and the Espresso Martini, the classic recipe version. Because it has the punchiness, the whiskey, you can really feel it. The vanilla coffee eases it out a little bit. And oh my god, I can't wait to put the Guinness inside. Let's just do that. The Irish Espresso Martini. I have no idea what it's gonna taste like. I'm scared. But let's give it a go. However, we're missing one thing, aren't we? We're missing the garnish. And no, I'm not going to use the coffee beans. The coffee beans are boring. I'm going to switch up the garnish as well. A coffee chocolate. What else? There's so much coffee. There's coffee Guinness. There's a coffee. There's a coffee liqueur. Let's use coffee chocolate and grate it on top to make a nice, beautiful garnish. So you end up with something like this. Let's give this a go. Oh my god. I've got to say, it's much better than I anticipated. I mean, when you hear Guinness and Espresso Martini, they don't really go together, but somehow I managed to make it work. I actually do like this. Sláinte. I fucking love Ireland.